And we're here with Conor Ryan. Conor, what is up?
Nothing much, man. What's going on with you?
Nothing much with me either. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was swell, small, not like usual Thanksgiving, but still had a good assortment of food. I think we talked on Poke the Bear about our favorite food, and all of it was there. The mac and cheese was there, which I know is kind of a maybe not controversial, right? But it's one that's people aren't really sometimes used to having mac and cheese. But I think I compared it to kind of how people compare Die Hard to a Christmas movie. Like, it's not really, but are you really gonna have someone get into an argument with you about it being a Christmas movie? Because it's just a great movie overall. If someone starts playing that, at a Christmas party, you're not gonna cause a fight over. You're not gonna have an uproar, right?
Yeah, I feel like with most festive parties, a lot of times, like if it was a Christmas, all right, this is so off the cuff, but if someone brought up like Step Brothers at a Christmas party, I'd watch it. I wouldn't be like, oh, it has to be a Christmas movie. No, it could be a good movie too.
No, it's something that's enjoyable, right? That's what you're not you're not playing like Saving Private Ryan or something to
Exactly.
set the tone at a holiday party, but
playing 1917 at a Christmas party.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think you can kind of go wrong with a movie like that at a holiday party. So, same as you can't really go wrong with mac and cheese at Thanksgiving. So I had.
What's funny is I can find you someone, because if you remember, I was kind of with you on this. Mac and cheese does make sense among everything, but after we were all eating, my mom said to us, do you guys know of anyone who eats mac and cheese with Thanksgiving? I saw this on Facebook and I couldn't believe it. I'd never heard of that. And I was like, yeah, I know a ton of people who do mac and cheese. And my sister was like, yeah, a ton of my friends do mac and cheese. And she's like, well, I've just never done mac and cheese. I don't think that makes any sense. So I did find someone who was kind of like, what the hell? So might be that old school kind of generation of no mac and cheese. It doesn't make sense. And in some ways, I guess it doesn't, but a lot of people do it. So, I mean, whatever, you can eat whatever. I had a friend on Thanksgiving who had chicken parm. Who they had an Italian place cater their Thanksgiving meal. Fine, so be it. Enjoy.
You do you. That's the joy of Thanksgiving. I just having a bunch of food. So just go with whatever works, right?
Exactly. Everybody needs to be libertarian on Thanksgiving when it comes to food. You just let people eat what they want. But at any rate, there is some hockey talk to get to. No recent news. I'm not going to sit here and be like, if you stay tuned to the last minute, there's breaking news. Like, how those YouTube channels, those YouTube channels that are all clickbait, the first 30 seconds will be someone reacting oh my God, oh, whoa. And then it cuts to the intro. And then it's watch this 35-minute video to find out why the guy did that.
It's something that's not important. It's like their DoorDash driver got lost for 5 minutes. The car flipped behind and went the other way for a second. It's not anything that's actual consequence. Usually in the YouTube videos.
It's funny that I was sometimes in the mornings, if I'm laying in bed, I'll kind of go down YouTube rabbit holes. And there was that fight the other night between Jake Paul and Nate Robinson. And so I started to look into, obviously I know who Jake Paul is. I never watched his videos, but I always knew who he was. But there's this family, and this annoyed me. There's this family with these three kids, excuse me. And the oldest is 6, and his name's Titus. And they call him Mini Jake Paul. And that's why they're famous. And I just saw they moved into a mansion house. And it's just I hate that side of YouTube. I hate those people. I really don't like them because it's you're just exploiting your kids. You're just this is what little kids are watching. They're watching you guys and you're depressing the shit out of them because you're hey, look at our huge house. Oh my God, look at our son. He has blonde hair. He must be Mini Jake Paul. It's just those people are the worst. I go off on a tangent there, but nonetheless, despite my rant, The Athletic did come out with. The Athletic likes to do these fun little stories in slow times like these, and they came out with power rankings for the 2023-24 season, which is that is 4 seasons from now. So it's a good amount of time away, but also will come quick. Think of 2016-17 and then think of 2019-20. Came quick. So the Athletic ranked the Bruins 21st in total ranking among all the teams. I don't know where they put Seattle, actually. I didn't look where they put Seattle, but who knows? So they put them at 21st. They ranked everyone on a scale to, I think, 10. So they ranked like young core and prospects, management and coaching, ownership and market, and salary cap situation. You will not be surprised to hear that what killed the Bruins in this ranking was young core and prospects. Not good enough. Now, do you agree with that? Do you think, I mean, they gave them a 2.7. That's in the red zone, which for the Athletic is, or in this power rankings is terrible. Do you agree with this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a viable concern when you look kind of beyond what you're going to have with this core in place here. I mean, 4 years down the road, you have to imagine that. Obviously, Chara will be gone. I mean, you would think Chara would be
maybe.
Bergeron, don't really know there. I mean, if he's not retired, he's kind of, on his last couple of seasons at that point. He's not the 1C that you at least you hope he's not putting that role, 4 years down the road. Krejci, again, free agent at the end of this year. Who knows what happens there? Rask. The Bruins have a couple of good pieces to build, on going forward, whether it be, David Pastrnak, I think would be up for a new contract by then. So who knows how much he's getting paid and how much he is eating up that cap space going forward. But, you have Pastrnak, you have Charlie McAvoy. I mean, you've got good pieces in place. It's just, are there too many kind of deficiencies across the roster that, just kind of in terms of the sum of its parts kind of hurts this team down the road? Because, it's not like you need, well, it would be great, but if Jack Studnicka and John Beecher are your 1 and 2 down the middle for the next 10 years, that'd be great. But, you have to hit a home run with both those guys, but you also have so many other guys pan out well. I mean, is Mason Lowry a potential top 4 guy? You have to see how he's doing. You have to
Kuntar.
Yeah, you got those guys. You've got Trent Frederick. Is he like a bottom 6 kind of legitimate guy who can fit into a role there? Is Jeremy Swayman's game translate to the pros? Like you hope he does after the year he had down in Maine. So there's pieces that you look at, and if you want to project down the road, that if they hit their level of being legitimate NHL players, then you have to be somewhat encouraged, right? It's not like it's completely doom and gloom, but it's still a big ask to hope that they hit on, you need to hit on 5 or 6 guys in the span of a couple of years to at least keep this team rolling. And again, there's other ways the Bruins can kind of take advantage of kind of the financial climate they're in. I mean, you've got a whole bunch of money coming off the books next year, and who knows what happens in the coming years in terms of who else will be a free agent that they can get. I mean, you probably looked at the Bruins in 2005 after they traded Joe Thornton. I bet if the Athletic ranking came out, you'd probably be like, holy shit, Bruins are going to be trash for the next 10
30th.
years. Yeah, it was a horrible trade for Joe Thornton. Bergeron's a good young player, but their decor is a mess. They've got, you don't really know who's going to be the guy in net. Is Tim Thomas this like journeyman guy who they're rolling with? Like you probably look at that 2005 team and be like, what the hell is going on going forward with this club? And then they have some cap room. They sign Chara, which again, it's not like you just got to pick up a Chara off the street. Chara is arguably the best free agent signing in NHL history. But it just goes to show you what can change in a couple of years if, whether it be just a free agent signing or 2 and just a couple of prospects, you hitting on a couple of prospects. It's not like you're hoping, Jacob Lauko becomes a Marchand or something like that, right? But, you've got to have a whole lot that goes your way. But it's kind of the challenge of projecting down the road is that, yeah, the Bruins need a lot of these prospects to hit. But, again, a whole bunch of stuff can change over the span of a couple of years that can kind of change the trajectory of a team.
Yeah, I think people kind of look too into the prospect pool the Bruins currently have and go, oh, this guy needs to fit here, this guy needs to fit here. Obviously, we do that, but you think about it, and it's like so much can change in just a few months. So much can change until then. I mean, they could make a trade and get a bunch of prospects. They could have a prospect come out of nowhere, kind of like a Jack Khan. Torrey Krug was not projected to be who Torrey Krug was going to be. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think many people saw him come out of college and go, "Oh, that's going to be your power play defenseman or your power play quarterback for the next 7 years." So I think that a lot of times, the prospect pool isn't good with the Bruins right now. I mean, I agree. I don't think it's top notch. I think it is a reason to be concerned, but so much can change. I mean, you look back. It's funny. You look back at the 2016, the 2006, 2007 Bruins. You look at that team, and there were so many minor moves during that year that ended up. I mean, you look at Brad Stewart and Wayne Primo for Chuck
Mm.
Kobasu and Andrew Ferentz. Like at the time, you think like that's a nothing move.
Yeah.
Paul Mara for I think it was either Aaron Ward or Dennis Weidman. And in those situations, it's like you don't think of it as like a big deal, but it ended up becoming. I mean, Andrew Ferentz was a key piece on that 2011 team.
Mm-hmm.
So these minor moves can take. I mean, look at the Charlie Coyle deal. I don't know if people kind of projected that to be as big as it ended up being for the Bruins. I also think Coyle's a guy who you can't underrate. He's signed long term here. He's also someone who could be a potential number 2 center. The production just needs to be there. So I think the issue is we just don't know what's going to happen. We don't. There's no way to know. There's no way to know what prospects you pick up, what free agents you sign. I mean, here's the funny thing, though. Like you mentioned the Chara free agent signing. I don't see the Bruins being a big player signing any big free agents over the next few years, especially considering how down people look at signing free agents over 30. Like,
Yeah.
was Chara 30 when he signed here? I
If
believe he was.
if he wasn't, he was like 20, 29, but I think it was 30.
It was
I want to say.
close.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, that was one where it was just like they desperately needed something after that, the way that that previous season panned out. So
I mean, if he's 43, we can do the math.
he was
That would
20.
be he's 29,
20.
so he's almost 30. So in
Yeah,
today's day and age, you wonder, would a big guy like Chara in a fast
yeah.
NHL, would he get that money? Would teams be after him, I guess, the way they were? And I don't know I don't think in this NHL signing free agents is the way to go. I think it's kind of widely agreed upon that it's scouting, drafting, doing it that route. So I don't know if the Bruins are going to go out and sign. Who's a big free? I mean, Alex Ovechkin obviously doesn't count, but
Hall after he scores,
yeah,
like 25 goals in like whatever 30, 31 games we're gonna get this year.
I know they're for poor guy. But yeah, I think the prospect aspect of it is kind of remains to be seen. But I agree. I don't think it's that great right now. You look at the rest of the roster, management and coaching. The Athletic gave an 8.5 out of 10. I would agree. I think Cassidy's here for the long haul. I think Sweeney is as well, but not as locked down just because he's a general manager. Ownership and market. You can say what you want about the Jacobs. We've all done it before. The market is good, though. I mean, it's hard to beat Boston. And then the salary cap situation will be a 6.5. You have a lot of money coming off the books soon. The thing is, though, I wonder what Pastrnak wants on his next deal, because he certainly proved that he's more valuable than the money he's making now.
Right.
If you remember back at the Stanley Cup final in 2019, Matt Kalman asked something about money, and David Pastrnak goes, I don't play hockey for the money, Matt. I don't know if you remember that. I do, because how could you not? It was such a notable moment of the Stanley Cup final. Most notable, actually. But yeah, I do wonder what they end up becoming. I do wonder if, I remember when Torrey Krug when it was Torrey Krug questions, we were kind of like, there's a chance the Bruins could be rebuilding here in the next few years. I mean, do you think they could be potentially headed for a rebuild after this upcoming season?
I mean, if this season doesn't pan out in terms of what their expectations are, I mean, let's say like I don't know, they get bounced by Toronto in the first round, like it finally happens or something like that, then you might be like,
that was my
right.
prediction last year, so I'm done predicting that.
So maybe that kind of forces, but I feel like, with the way some of these guys are under contract, it's not like a full blown, like I'd be surprised if you get like a full blown rebuild where it's just like, all right, Krejci's gone, Rath's gone, we trade other guys and we just kind of, start Jeremy Swayman and like feed him to the Wolves. Like, I feel like it's not going to be that. It's going to be like
Dan Vladar in Game 4 of the second round.
Like I feel it's more going to be like a rebuilding on the fly where it's you still got like at least a solid core in place, and you're just adding more and more of these younger players, which I think you're kind of already seeing this year. If the roster kind of holds where it's Zaboral and Vakanainen and Clifton and Lozon, those guys fighting for minutes. I mean, um, it's not the most ideal situation for a team that you would expect is going all in, but that's kind of what I think you're going to see over the next couple of years. Is just more and more guys kind of just getting incorporated into the lineup while still trying to be competitive. Which, when you've got a veteran core like this crew and you got that top line, you can kind of get away with it, unlike most teams, in terms of having areas of the roster that you're kind of having an open competition for, because you're at least still going to be buoyed by having that line produce the way it does. That power play, even without Krug, is still going to get a bunch of points. So I think you're allowed the luxury of doing that. It's just that you need some of these guys to hit, right? I mean, a lot of times these rebuilding seasons is because you have so many vacancies and so many open spots for younger players that you're trying to see who fits where, and you're kind of doing it kind of in the middle of a season now, where you've got at least pieces in place that can kind of cover up some of those flaws as you try to see who's the best fit. It works out well that if the Bruins find out that a guy like Zaboral is a legit player, should be great for them, and they go into the 2021-22, and you don't have to really worry on the D line, on the blue line, where you've got a guy like Zaboral, then it works out great. You didn't have to waste a year just trying to go through a revolving door of defensemen in that spot. So the way the Bruins are built, I think they're allowed the luxury of doing something like that. It's just that the players they're trying out in those spots need to hit on them, right? They can't be guys that are, the tail end of the year, you still don't have anyone who's set into that role yet.
It's funny. You mentioned the whole using these younger guys like Zaboral and Vakanainen and Clifton and Lozon with the already set kind of cup contending lineup. And that kind of sounds like the 2014-15 and 2015-16 Bruins in a sense. Now, obviously, the 14-15 Bruins, I felt were better than the 15-16 team. But we always kind of look at those 2 years and go, oh, those are the dark ages. But in reality, they weren't. I mean, those were 90-point teams. They were fine. They just didn't make the playoffs. But it's funny. You think about that, and that was kind of the 2 years where they rebuilt on the fly. And I do wonder if the Bruins are headed for something similar, because I don't see them just saying we're blowing the whole thing up. We're going to do a Red Wings style rebuild where we just literally put a stick of dynamite in the middle of the team and blow up the whole locker room. I don't think that's going to happen. But, again, with the turnover you're experiencing, Rask, Krejci, Bergeron, I mean, you don't know, Chara as well. You don't know what the deal is with these guys. Rask says he wants to play beyond next year. He wants to play in Boston. Okay. But how good is he going to be in his mid-30s? What kind of deal can they sign him to? What's Krejci going to do? Krejci's always said he wants to go play in the Czech Republic to finish out his career. Is he going to do that? So you're kind of at this point where there's a lot of questions, and you really don't have all the answers. I mean, you look at – it's so hard to play off history because, to go off of different history, everything's different. Mm-hmm. But the 13-14 Bruins were the best team in hockey by a mile. I mean, they were just the best.
Yeah.
Obviously, they didn't win the cup or really go near it because the Canadians. But you would never have predicted the next year they'd come out and miss the playoffs. Right. I mean, granted, they lost. No, they didn't lose Lucic going into that year. They lost Riley Smith. I think that was the only thing they lost.
Again, well, if you go into the 14-15, right? I mean, they lose Iginla, and they lose. And they lost Boychuk, right? That was the other.
Yes, that was the trade. That was the year that they traded Boychuk for a second-round pick to begin the year. I remember that. Yes, that was a big deal. By the way, Johnny Boychuk retired. We didn't discuss that on either show last week. Shame on us. What a career for that guy. It's funny because I feel like the Islander. I saw people on Islanders Twitter being like, "Oh, he started the Johnny Rocket here," and I was like, "No, he didn't. Not at all. Not even close."
Quite a few highlights here.
Yes, when you really Also, shout out to Fumi for pretty much having every highlight. I saw Ty tweet this as well. Every highlight of the past 15 years in Bruins history. But I guess we're just gonna switch to Johnny Boychuk here. It's funny. You think of how fun he was, such an embodiment of how fun those years were to watch the Bruins. Mm-hmm. During that time, 08 to 13 or even 14, how fun those games were to watch. I mean, they were intense, they were hard hitting. I mean, they if you're you're kind of blue collar type people, those were fun teams to watch.
Oh yeah, and I mean he played a big role in that, and just the career he had too. I mean he was a guy that was kind of stuck down in the AHL, never really was given a chance. Goes to gets moved to the Bruins organization, spends a whole year down in Providence, and I think he dominated. I feel like he had 60 plus points in his lone season in Providence, which I think was with Bruce Cassidy, and then just kind of makes the jump up and just becomes a key cog on that blue line. I mean he's a guy that. And everyone remembers him for that the slap shot that he was never afraid to take. But I mean, he was great at, throwing the body around, just being a dependable guy. I mean, especially I think in the 2013 playoffs, I feel like he was dynamite for all that that whole cup run. I mean, just a guy that seemed like who's loved in the locker room. I remember quite a few beat writers were talking about how much that late trade from to the Islanders really kind of impacted that Bruins locker room. Such a close guy in the locker room, and I think that was right before the season started. I think it was October.
September.
Yeah, the very
might have been. It was very early. I mean, it was very right before the season.
So yeah, I mean, it's a shame that it kind of has to end on kind of terms that he didn't set. Suffering that eye injury and kind of the damage he took, where he said that even though he's able to play in the Toronto bubble, he's still got issues with peripheral vision and optic nerve damage and stuff like that. So made the right call, obviously deciding to retire and not risk it there. But it is even a guy like him, a veteran who's played a lot of years, won a cup. It's always a shame when you kind of can't dictate your terms on when you want to walk away from the game. But again, a guy who went from an AHL guy to someone who stepped up and became a key cog on quite a few great teams. So I mean, he's had an incredible career.
For sure, absolutely, and I could absolutely see him getting in coaching as well. I could totally see him on the coaching side of things. I think he mentioned in his press conference I might win a cup on the other side, and I don't think he meant that as a broadcaster. I think he meant how the broadcasters get cups. I think he meant I'm going to be a coach or a GM. So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, Johnny Boychuk. Absolute legend around here. Hardest hits in the world. Great at the low bridge hits, the hip checks. Amazing at hip. He got Patrick Sharp really good back in 2013, and then there were so many notable hits. I mean, you just the hit on that guy from the Sabres. Oh, what was his name? I don't remember his name. But coming over the blue,
rocked him. Yeah, and he had to get off the ice.
Yeah, and you just see him kind of doubled over getting off the ice. I mean, that was kind of an embodiment of that Sabres series. But shout out Johnny Boychuk, an amazing career, and one that I don't think Bruins fans will forget anytime soon. But that is today's episode of Bruins Beat. Before I let you go, Connor, is there anything that you'd like listeners to look out for?
Yeah, we're going to be kind of following the ongoing negotiations with the NHL and NHLPA this week. It's probably going to be a pretty critical week. I think we say that every week, but especially now. I mean, they're still not budging with this January 1st start date, which if that's the case, you better hurry up soon because we need training camp to start in about 2 weeks if you really want that, which I think at this point seems like a long shot to say the least. But even if you're pushing the season back into February, you need to start making traction on a new season and kind of putting these parameters in place. So I think it's going to be a really crucial week for all parties involved. So we'll have all the latest there over at bostonsportsjournal.com. So subscribe there. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. And for CLNS Media, I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.